I will ask you to give me your first or your overall impression beyond. I mean, you did do the video about it, but
Mhm.
and that's another reason why we're sitting down today to discuss this. But
Mhm.
I'd love to hear again or live from what your impressions are.
Oh yeah. So what I found most interesting about the UI, just from a perspective of like UI design, I don't do UI design, but I've been in the room with people that design UIs and stuff like that from scratch. And the thing that I thought was most striking, the most on point about your UI design was that everything had a everything had a flow and everything was understandable and everything like as I was looking at it, I was like, oh, okay, I intuitively understand. Okay, that's you're parking your drive. Oh, I get that. You're turning the lights on and off because you have the symbol that looks like a light. Everything that I saw made sense from a design perspective. It also made sense from a user experience aspect because I could see that, oh, as the driver, I'm going to want to have this stuff closer to me. I'm going to want to have the drive modes closer to me than I would want the solar power, charging situation. Like that stuff is further away from the driver, so you don't necessarily have to access it. I think it did a really good job with those aspects, and I think I mentioned in the video that one of the things that I wanted to see, um, I guess, uh, massage developed a little bit was the fact that there were some pieces of the UI that I would think that would be a higher priority for the driver that were more relegated to smaller portions of the screen, like the climate control. It was kind of like down into the bottom, and in my head, I'm like, I could get used to finding that, but I'm pretty sure my finger's gonna miss it once or twice when I'm sliding the.
I see.
Um, yeah.
Lots to talk about. I would offer this. It's not my design. It's a collaborative effort
Hmm.
with a set of designers, engineers, and then a collaboration between at one end of the spectrum, you've got the hardware. What is the hardware doing? And then what is that signal? And then there's a software layer of like, how do we receive that signal? Then there's a software layer that says, okay, what is the action? Then eventually there's, okay, that's the action we want. Do we want to go up, down, left, right? Is it just a button? Then there's a whole layer of sound, which is not really part of this introduction video.
Hmm.
And one of the very last things that again, we don't start with the style, but we end with a consistent aesthetic that harmonizes the whole thing. The other technique that we employ is eye tracking to say, okay, these are your most important things. We do this with websites too. So you find out where the eyes are concentrated and how much in order to eliminate the clumsiness of what most UI experiences are, especially in EVs these days. It's the one case where we can look to UI interfaces for electric vehicles, and we can eliminate pain points instead of create them. And again, I'm gonna invoke this again. It's like don't complicate an iron ball. The ultimate expression is the user does nothing. And that's kind of your full self-driving experience, like literally level 5 autonomy. We're maybe a few months or a few years from achieving the actual meaning of the word automobile. We've been lying to ourselves for over a century. But that kind of opportunity now with a pared down or a very focused user experience and the implementation of the touchscreen controls when needed is a profound shift in the experience of operating a vehicle.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen here because there were actually
Sure.
a couple of things that I wanted to confirm before I come to a conclusion here. The first thing I wanted to ask was the backup camera. Do you happen to know what resolution that is and how it performs at night? Have you done that testing yet, or?
I believe the testing for night and the specifications, kind of the range of the camera, has been performed, but I
Mhm.
don't know the exact, let's say, resolution of what the unit is.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. Just to my eye, it looked like at least 720p. So I'm like, this is fantastic because I have a really, really crappy backup camera on my car. So it's like, okay,
Right?
upgrading. All right. And there was a moment that I am going to see if I can get precisely to. There we go. So, in the comments, people were asking, "Hey, what is that arrow doing? What it went up and then it went down, and what does that mean?" I speculated that that had something to do with the windows going up and down. Was I correct there, or is there something else going on?
You are correct. And we've been testing this for a while. You have two fields where you're going to operate the windows, and your motion of your finger is going to determine which direction it's going. Obviously, if it's up, you can't, nothing's going to happen if you swipe up. But if
Hmm.
the window is fully closed and you want it open, you're going to swipe on the left area for the driver, and you're going to swipe on the right area for the passenger side.
Hmm.
And you can actually, use two fingers and swipe together. As soon as you lift your finger, the window will stop. That's how you'll control it that way. So I want you to think about a couple of things. One is the throw of the window is only a 9-inch opening at its maximum. It's
Hmm.
not that long of a distance, and it's not that long of a time. So a quick swipe is going to give you exactly what your desired window position is. The second thing is, this is the part where you get a lot of initial assumptions, and you get to break out of what would be considered like, well, that's not going to work. Humans are unbelievably adaptable. They're also very stubborn. But the rate at which you adapt to kind of a muscle memory of, swiping to do something is pretty amazing. A lot of us from engineering, from the software side, from the design side, we've all experienced not only the touchscreen stuff, but vehicle controls as they relate to the operation of the vehicle. And we also have essentially, the number one selling vehicle in the world is mostly controlled through its touch interface. Now, that doesn't mean that everything is touch interface, and I'm sure we're going to touch on that. But those are the window controls.
I remember you saying that you decided on the positioning and everything based on where people's eyes naturally go and where they're most inclined to go. Is there a way to like customize the screen for the end user, or is that going to be more like a locked in and we get feedback and then we adjust it later?
It's more the latter.
Gotcha. Okay.
I'll give you to that point, I'll give you an example. In one of my experiences of a vehicle UI UX, I found 3 or 4 places where you could change the clock between 24-hour and 12-hour.
Hmm.
And again, iron ball, you don't need it. You don't do it. It's not necessary. It should be automatic, right?
Hmm.
Same thing for, our launch edition and our market. There's no need to have some place where the user says, well, I want kilometers because I'm living in this province, or I'm living in this other country. Until such time it's needed, we don't need to complicate the software by giving a choice between MPH and KPH. It's just not needed right now.
Gotcha. Okay. That was actually the answer I was hoping for because a lot of Aptera's mantra, or so I've observed, is to make things as seamless and intuitive as possible. And a couple of my commenters were like, "Wait, shouldn't there be a way to move this thing over here and switch over the?" And I was like, "That sounds really complicated." I just wanted to put that out there to see,
Yeah.
where you guys' heads were at.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of those things are based on assumptions, and once you remove the assumption part and put it into like, no, this is the factor, then it starts to make a lot more sense.
And so the next thing I was going to ask here, this volume control just kind of, or yeah, it just kind of dominates the entire screen. Is that something that you can, is that like a parked feature, or does that actually just come up whenever you adjust the volume? Like, how does that function? Because I notice it takes up the whole screen. Like, I don't know what the implications of that are for when you're driving. Does it like cover that when you're driving and you have to wait for it to change and go back or what have you?
Okay, here's how I'm going to answer that. And this is another thing that we've been working with. And keep in mind, we started the foundation of the layout for what the controls would be over a year and a half ago. And it's going to be ongoing. We're now at the implementation part, which is the most critical and most necessary. So that you find out in the implementation, like, oh, as designed, we can't do that. We have to do it this way. Okay, then let's change that. Think about volume. The controls are on the yoke.
Hmm.
That's your primary up and down, right? So louder and softer.
Right.
And it's also your primary input to that is literally the sound. The secondary is the visual, which you won't really need to look at, but there's also the secondary volume control on the screen. Now, the secondary volume control is for your passenger mostly. and then they can just slide it and it goes, higher or lower in sound. And that visual takes over. Now, in this screenshot, we're obviously in park,
Hmm.
but the same will happen when you're underway in a different drive state, where the amount of time that you adjust the volume is really not that long. And that's another aspect of UI UX design is the time, like the cadence. And then again, I mentioned the audio. Then there's a layer of audio. Not everything needs a click or a sound or everything. In fact, you want to minimize that. But that's my explanation for the volume here.
Lighting. So I remember you replying to this in the UI UX situation,
Yep.
that the lights are going to be on by default unless you are in park or the vehicle is off. And that is actually, generally speaking, United States wide, a law that a motorcycle has to have their lights on at all times. How many how many times do you run into considerations like that that are like legally binding and that you have to navigate or make sure you're adhering to and that kind of stuff?
Oh, good question. That's one of the main components of a lot of this is there's certain telltales and there's certain conditions that we have to respect both from a regulatory standpoint and only from a regulatory standpoint. That list is as important as these are the things we want to control, and then this is how we want to control them. But let's stay with the lighting. You are correct. The lights are automatic. There is no need for you to get in and turn the lights on. That's not a situation. There is cases where you are parked in the vehicle. You might be waiting for somebody. It might be nighttime, and you wish to turn the lights off. And that's what this situation satisfies, which is why it's not on the primary page. It's on a secondary settings. You don't, you're not going to be parking every day several times and wishing to turn off the lights. Maybe some people will, but that's how you do it. As soon as you change the drive state, if you were here and you turn the lights off and then you said, well, no, I'm going to put it in drive or put it in reverse, the lights come back on automatically and they stay there because that's the default state.
Gotcha. And so when it comes to like using your high beams and whatnot, that's going to be, I'm assuming, adaptive for traffic situations and levels of brightness and that kind of thing.
Uh, there's two parts to the answer to that. The high beam function is solely controlled by the user on the stalk, right?
Hmm.
You pull back to flash and you push forward to leave steady state.
Okay.
The icon for the headlamps is will illuminate blue instead of the gray.
Hmm.
So the only time when, in fact, if you check the video, I think if you turn the lights off, you should notice that the graphic changes and the lamp symbol disappears, the telltale of the lamp symbol.
Let's see. I just want to emphasize that I am so happy that we get to control the brights manually. That's another pain point for me. Like when I'm driving, people kind of have oh, I'm going to have my brights on while I'm going past you, obviously.
Okay. The second part of the answer is we do not have adaptive high beams yet, right? That's not part of the technology. It's completely possible. Now it's becoming, completely legal, which it wasn't for a long time, but
Hmm.
we do not have that for this product.
You will get no pushback from me on that one because, like I said, I have a love-hate relationship with those adaptive high beams. Let me see, and yeah, I think that's the last. Oh, last thing here. So for connectivity's sake, this icon says connect your phone and it's Bluetooth related. I don't know if anybody's asked this yet, but is there a time frame that you can think that you can expect an introduction of like Apple CarPlay and Android Auto and that kind of stuff?
I don't have a time frame for that.
Gotcha. Okay.
We know kind of what it takes, but I don't have a time frame.
Yeah, yeah, no problem. I was just asking for the fans because I know they like, hey,
Sure.
could you? Yeah. So my last question here is kind of a personal question, if you don't mind. A
Okay.
lot of people that I've interviewed that have worked with Aptera, I've asked the question if there was something that you were doing a lot before, like from a hobby perspective, that you are not doing as much now because you had to focus on the vehicle. What was that thing for you?
Hmm. I don't think I've given up any, let's say, hobby in doing this design process on behalf of Aptera. I think and part of it is just because of my age. Like I'm not missing out on, let's say, golf or or surfing. Both sports I used to pursue a lot more.
Hmm.
So, but they also don't hold the same appeal to me at this stage. I think one of the greatest things about a product like this is that you really have an opportunity to have purity and authenticity as opposed to trying to find small advantages in an existing framework.
Hmm.
And it's tough because, everybody's got, oh, you guys should do this and you should do that. And it's like, yeah, but we're not. This is very singular pursuit towards the efficiencies, and that we can layer on, the solar and remove the pain points is an opportunity. I mean, pessimists they sound smart, but optimists change the world.
Absolutely. That's one of my favorite quotes, thought processes, because a lot of people can be very unnecessarily negative, if my comment section is anything to be believed there. But yeah, it's the world is built on the ideas of people that dare to ask that question, what if I tried this? Or what if we did that? What happens with this? And it's a beautiful thing. And like I love what you guys are doing because specifically in the case of design and just execution of a vehicle, I've never seen anything like Aptera, and I don't know if it's possible to see anything like you guys again. It's amazing to watch.
I think this vehicle, when it does what it's going to do, it opens possibilities amazingly. I had a moment there and I lost it. You said something that reminded me of something else
Hmm.
and related to the vehicle and related to the design. Maybe we'll leave that to the next conversation.
Absolutely.
Right.
Is there anything that you can think of that I didn't ask that you wanted to answer?
Hmm. Not at the moment. I have like upstream benefit of kind of running through and thinking through and working with the team and getting input and adding. Oh, I know what I was going to say. It's so important to be wrong about things.
Hmm.
And when every week, if I'm not wrong about something, that means that I probably got some blind spots built up. So you want to constantly adapt with especially new information and kind of take the input. And normally it comes from a good place, but a lot of the assumptions are, well, it should be like that because it's always been. And I made some retort to one of the comments about a speedometer and it's just so mind-boggling. And my wife's vehicle has this. There's a digital representation of a pivot point and a needle, and it goes around a range of these tick marks, and then there's some numerals, and I get to guess the speed.
Right.
It's the same thing as like, well, how far can you go? I got a quarter tank. What does that mean? Right? The fact that we can even guess at percentage or we can measure percentage of battery and we can kind of estimate range, that's amazing. So we have all these clumsy things that we cling to that are just, you know, I'll give you another one. You've seen Tesla dash cams, all the videos of people like angry at Teslas. So
Hmm.
they're keying them. The irony is that you need a key to key a vehicle. And
Hmm.
all EVs don't have that in general, right? I mean, there's a marketplace where you have to order a fob for your electric vehicle, but there's no key to do this kind of thing. Optimists change the world. So let's go.
Absolutely. All right, man. I appreciate your time once again. Thank you all for watching. You were a fantastic audience if you've made it this far. Please do the YouTubey things, and I'll catch you guys next time.
Thank you, Jeff. Great to talk to you. We'll keep it casual.
All right. Apparently, that's all I had to do. I thought I was going to have to specify the pathway for the recording, but apparently not. Hmm.
Looks straightforward.
That's pretty good. Now I need to figure out where they're actually recording to. All right. They no, they moved the share button, and I'm looking for it.
So it's not intuitive. You're telling me you're having a UI, UX
There it
issue
is.
by
Having
design.
some
Yep.
UI issues. Let me see if I can why would you move that? It was so well placed.
Yeah, join the meeting, but here, first upgrade.
Okay, here we go.